Welcome to another training segment on the Couple Checkup. In this segment, we'll be looking at how to understand the results of a Couple Checkup report. My name is Dr. Peter Larson. I am a psychologist and co-author of the Couple Checkup. So, once a couple has finished taking the checkup online, they can simply log in to go to a View Results page. Now, the moment the second person finishes their assessment, they will be taken automatically to the View Results page, but they could also log in at a later time and simply click on the View Results button to get their report and their results. The report will be available for 90 days after they have completed the checkup. Once they click View Results, a PDF report is immediately available to the couple. Now, the report's about 20 pages long, and like I said, it's a PDF format, which means it's very flexible. PDF files can be saved to someone's hard drive, they can be printed, they can be viewed online, they can even be attached as an email if someone would like to share the results with a counselor, pastor, or leader of some sort. The report is designed for couples to understand and not necessarily be overly technical, and certainly we've tried to make it as non-threatening as possible so couples can get the information they need to identify their strengths and issues, but not feel discouraged or overwhelmed by the report. It's also private. Notice the couple will get their report directly themselves, and then they can choose to share that with a counselor or pastor if they choose. We're going to look at an actual report. I've changed the names of this couple, but it's a married couple named Joe and Mary. We'll call them Joe and Mary, and we'll page through a few of the report pages to flesh this out and try and give you an understanding of what is in the couple checkup results. What we're looking at here is a summary page, summary of their overall strength and growth areas, and what the chart shows is growth areas, possible strengths, and strengths areas. These categorizations are based on the level of positive or healthy agreement between both spouses. So for them to score high like they did here on financial management or sexual relationship, they both have to feel good about that aspect of their relationship, which then would make it a strength. A possible strength, they're generally satisfied, but there may be some concerns by one or both spouses. So in this case, spiritual beliefs, roles, family, and friends are all possible strengths. And a growth area shown here by communication and conflict resolution means that the couple, either one or both partners, really had some concerns about those aspects of their relationship. So they can quickly glance on this page and see at a category level where some of their strength and growth areas are. And then there's a summary statement towards the bottom that for this couple shows there's a mix of strength and growth areas, and that this is really an opportunity for them to begin working on their relationship proactively. That if they wait or don't work on their relationship, the risk is they'll feel quite disconnected from one another. Now here's an actual report page at the category level for Joe and Mary on conflict resolution. And this is the standard layout for a checkup report page. You can see at the top there's a definition. So conflict resolution looks at their ability to discuss and resolve differences. It also measures how effectively they're able to share opinions, ideas, and feelings with one another, even during times of conflict. In this case, we at the top of the page, we're going to see the individual results, how Joe and Mary each rated conflict resolution individually. And then on the bottom half, we see their level of couple agreement and some specific areas that they can discuss and look at more in depth. It tells us this is a growth area for them because neither of them felt wonderful about their conflict resolution. We're going to unpack this a little bit more. One thing you should know is that there are 7 statements or 7 items that couples answer for each category. So in the couple checkup, there were 7 statements about conflict resolution that they each responded to, and that helps us generate both their individual and couple scores for that category. Here's an example of a statement from the couple checkup, and I just want you to be familiar with how this works. So a statement would be, my partner is a good listener, and then the person filling out the checkup has um, the chance to either agree or disagree with how much that statement describes their relationship and their experience. So it can range from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. So we're going to look at individual scores first, and if there's 7 items and they rate each one on this 5-point scale, the higher their score, the more satisfaction they're going to have in that area. So if we look at individual scores on conflict resolution, you can see Joe is somewhat satisfied with their ability to discuss and resolve differences, but may be aware of some issues. Now Mary's even less satisfied. She's aware of considerable difficulty discussing and resolving differences. So on the 7 statements in that category, Joe rated them, in the average range on that 5-point scale. Mary was pretty low. She was probably answering several 1s and 2s with strongly disagree or disagree to some of those statements. So her individual score is quite low. Now, when we score something at the couple level, we compare how both partners answered the question. So in this case, my partner is a good listener. Ideally, you would have both spouses saying either 4 or 5, agree or strongly agree, because this is a positive statement, a healthy statement. So if they both agreed or strongly agreed with that, that would boost their couple score. Now, if they both said no, that's not true, and they answered 1 or 2, strongly disagree or disagree, that would pull their score down. It would also pull their score down if one of them answered agree and the other one answered strongly disagree. Remember that we're going to look at their couple score now. They both have to feel good about this aspect of their relationship for it to increase their score. Undecided responses do not help their couple agreement score either. They will not boost that positive or healthy couple agreement by answering undecided. Now, this is the bottom half of a standard report page, and it's the couple results. What you'll see is the chart that tells them their level of couple agreement, which also then indicates whether it's a growth area, a possible strength, or a strength for them as a couple. Off to the right-hand side, you'll see these bullet points. There are 7 bullet points there for each category, and those correspond to the actual assessment items that the couples answered when they took their checkup. It's not the exact wording, it's a close paraphrase of the actual assessment item, but it gives them the ability to review their results and be able to discuss a little bit more in depth how they did in that area. So for conflict resolution for Joe and Mary, remember this was a growth area, and they only had 1 agreement item where they both felt positive, and it was about whether or not they say nothing to avoid hurting one another. So in this case, both Joe and Mary said, well, we're not really avoiding conflict altogether. If there's something to be said, we do say it. And that's actually positive. Unfortunately, that's the only positive that they indicated. Several of the discussion items are listed here, and it would be listed as a discussion item if they both expressed a concern about it, or if even just one of them expressed a concern about it. We know from their individual scores that Mary scored lower than Joe, so she probably expressed a few more concerns than he did, but he was not off the charts. He had some concerns as well. Bringing differences to a point of resolution, feeling understood while discussing problems, their ability to express feelings while resolving differences. One or both end up feeling responsible for the problem. One or both indicated that they have disputes over trivial issues, and just their overall approach to solving disagreements. There's some concern about that. So there's lots of things within conflict resolution that Joe and Mary were concerned about. And it's no surprise then that this is a growth area in their relationship. The bottom of the report page sums up what that means for them and gives them a few encouragements and ideas on how to begin working on this aspect of their relationship. Now, there were some categories, if you remember from the summary page, where they had a strength, and one of their strengths was financial management. You can see here their individual scores were very high around financial management. It says they both feel positive about their spending habits and how finances are currently being handled. So based on how they answered the 7 statements around finances, each individual scored quite high on that. Well, you would expect then that their couple score would also be quite high. And sure enough, here it is. It's a strength area for them. They had all 7 statements came out as agreement items. So they both felt good about all of these aspects around finances. A savings plan, credit and charge accounts, how money is handled, making decisions together, sharing financial control, spending priorities, and their level of debt and unpaid bills. So you can see how the checkup is very sensitive because of the way it is scored and the way both spouses have their answers compared with one another. It very quickly picks up on any discord or any issues, but it also is able to highlight the strengths, and that's a real positive thing. We want couples to feel encouraged, but also have some increased understanding and awareness if there are areas that they need to work on. Now, towards the back of the couple checkup report, after all the topics are covered, there's a section on closeness and flexibility that we call the map, or the couple map. And it's a real interesting model developed by Dr. David Olson many years ago called the circumplex model. It's a pretty technical sounding term, but really it's a model of balance across these 2 dimensions. And so along the side here, you've got flexibility, and it ranges from inflexible or rigid all the way up to overly flexible, what a family counselor might call chaotic. So a relationship, whether it's a couple relationship or a family relationship, can feel inflexible or overly flexible. Some of the things that would come out in or be experienced in regular life might be the way roles are defined and shared, the way discipline is handled, making an adjustment to change, or sharing leadership. Those are some of the dimensions in which flexibility would be real obvious. If someone was very low on flexibility, for example, they would have a hard time adjusting to change or sharing leadership. Discipline would be quite rigid, and roles would have a hard time adjusting. Okay, so across the bottom, this dimension is called closeness, and that ranges from disconnected all the way to overly connected. Now, again, a family therapist would call this overly connected dimension enmeshed, which is kind of a smothering relationship. If someone doesn't have a good balance of time spent together and apart, they can feel smothered, and that's really almost too much closeness, too much connection. Those couples have to do everything together, or those families kind of demand loyalty. On the other end, a disconnected relationship is quite obvious. Too much time apart as opposed to having some time together, feeling very emotionally distant, and really not doing much in the way of leisure activities together. So in this case, Mary and Joe both feel that they have a flexible relationship, but Mary only feels somewhat connected to Joe's very connected. Now notice they're both in this white zone, which is still the balanced region, but given that conflict resolution score, remember when on the summary page we saw that they are not feeling good about their communication or their conflict resolution, and specifically Mary was highlighting more concerns in those areas. So it's no surprise she feels less connected to Joe than he does to her. He's not as concerned about the way they're dealing with conflict or communication. So he may feel a little bit more connected to her than she does to him. It's rather interesting. Now let's look at this is another couple And this was a premarital couple. Again, we've changed the names to protect their identity. We'll call them Denise and William. Now, Denise was right in the middle and feels very connected and flexible, and William feels even more connected. Well, the reason I'm showing you the premarital couple in this report is that they get another page in their checkup, which looks at their family of origin. So when it's an engaged couple taking the checkup, they get this extra section on their family of origin. And the goal is to help them discuss the families they're coming from. You know, as you form a marriage, a new family system, you're really bringing in this history with you. And this is dramatic in this case because William came from an inflexible family that was only somewhat connected. This would have been a very strict and maybe a rather cold feeling family system. And Denise, on the other hand, came from, again, a very balanced, flexible, and connected family system. So when you look at how they're experiencing their relationship now as a couple and where they came from, it's going to feel dramatically different for William. This is going to be a nice move towards health for him. But one of the questions we want engaged couples to ask themselves and to discuss is, what would we like to repeat from our family of origin, and what don't we want to repeat? And I imagine William in that case would have a lot to say about that question. So the couple and family maps provide a great way to talk about closeness and flexibility and the types of relationships you're experiencing and the type of relationship you want to experience. The last section in the couple checkup has to do with personality, and we've got an acronym called SCOPE, SCOPE, and this stands for social, change, organized, pleasing, and emotionally steady. These 5 dimensions are measured for each person in terms of their personality. Now, this model comes from something called the 5-factor model of personality, and you can go online and learn more about that either at our website or even just by Googling it, because the 5-factor model has become really a leading personality model in the field of psychology. There's lots of information out there on it, and it's a neat model because it's very positive and it's very well researched. Now, let me describe a little bit about these dimensions just so you know what you're looking at. The report will define each of these for the couple and give them their personal feedback, but we'll take a second just to review what these mean now. The social trait looks at introversion and extroversion. That's a trait that you see in many personality models. And so someone who scores very low on the social trait is going to be more introverted, and someone who scores high is going to be much more extroverted. In this case, Joe and Mary are both in the average range, so there's probably not going to be a lot of difficulty for them as a couple managing that. They're going to want to see a balance of time spent with others and time spent alone. Now, this change dimension is a rather unique one for the scope personality section, and it has to do with openness to change. Let me show you their report page under the change scale. It defines change as a trait that reflects openness to change, flexibility, and interest in new experiences. It gives Joe his feedback for someone who scored high on the openness to change trait. It suggests he'll be flexible, unconventional, very open to new experiences. Joe probably loves to try new things, go new places, test out new technology. Who knows what it might be, but he's very open to the new stuff and to change. Mary, on the other hand, scored in the average range, suggesting more of a balance of the new, abstract, and creative ideas with more traditional or practical, down-to-earth approaches. So Mary might be a little bit more resistant to trying every new idea that Joe has, is what we're going to see with a couple like this. Based on their individual scores, then, there's a couple discussion section for each one of these dimensions that tells the couple to, how to think and begin to talk about some of their differences in their personality. Now we encourage you, the couple, and if you're ever working with a couple as a facilitator, to look at all 5 dimensions. Some personality models just say, well, look at the highest score and talk about that. Well, in the big 5, you want to look at all 5 dimensions because people are a little bit more sophisticated than just one defining attribute in their personality. So you'll want to look at the organized scale, the pleasing scale, the emotionally steady scale, in addition to social and change. Here we can see Joe's more organized than Mary. He may be a little bit more goal-oriented. We know by that score. They're both average in the pleasing scale, which has to do with agreeableness, wanting harmony. Someone who's very high on pleasing would be very polite and would not want to rock the boat, whereas someone who scored very low on the pleasing dimension would be much more assertive, maybe competitive in nature. And then the emotionally steady scale, you can see here's a difference for this couple. Joe's in the average range and Mary scored in the low range. Now that's not bad because every score on Scope, it can be positive in its own way. Mary is going to really be in touch with her feelings. She's going to really experience her feelings, and that's okay. There is an issue for her potentially if she's under a lot of stress. She's going to be more prone to getting angry or anxious or maybe depressed, and emotionally reactive that way. Joe's going to balance her out nicely, though. He's going to be more steady in terms of stress and handling that. So with the big 5, keep in mind a few of these principles. It's not better or worse to score high or low on any one of the dimensions. They're just descriptive. They describe the normal range of functioning. They're not meant to diagnose personality disorders or anything like that. You want to consider all 5 scores. And the overall goal of looking at personality here is really to help a couple understand their similarities and differences, to appreciate one another, to appreciate the ways that they're unique, and not get caught in the trap of trying to change the personality of their partner, because that won't work. That will only lead to frustration and some hurt feelings. So this wraps up the quick overview of understanding the results from the couple checkup. I hope it sheds some light on how that report is designed and gives you some ideas of how to use it in your own setting. Thank you very much.